everybody. Welcome to the Backbone Podcast, where common sense still makes sense in a world that is sick and only getting sicker. And today, very, very explosive and interesting, to say the least, interview conducted by Jason Whitlock with his guest, who is Chris Brunette. Now, if you don't know who Chris Brunette is, he used to write for the, I guess it was a newspaper or a website called The American Conservative. And he did, with this guy, Chris Rufo, they exposed this woman named Claudine Gay, who was the president of Harvard, a DEI, absolutely. And they found out that she plagiarized, surprise, surprise, her PhD or exams or papers. And of course, liberals and blacks all said that it was a witch hunt and this and that, and she ended up resigning because it was all true, which is a good thing. Of course, this guy later on was ostracized and his career was over. He then left the American Conservative. From what he claims is that he had to toe the line with border security. He had to support Israel or write favorable articles about Israel. And other things that were not conservative, or at least not in his mind conservative. And he was tossed into the wind. He is supported at that time, by Nick Fuentes and the American First Movement, otherwise known as the Groypers. They support him. Fuentes did an interview, did a podcast about him about 10 months ago. And they took this guy in, allegedly took this guy in. Well, here he is today on with Jason Whitlock, who I have to say, I'm very surprised Whitlock would allow something like this on his channel. There were some incredible things that were being said here. And I want you to pay attention to a few words that were being said, a few trigger words that were being said in this little clip. It's about 2.5 minutes. What institutions are mentioned here, if any? And just take a look at the still photos they use showing Nick Fuentes. This is very, 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 very much in the vein of Rules for Radicals, written by Saul Alinsky, a very amateurish book. Not very, nobody's going to confuse Saul Alinsky with Machiavelli or Thomas Paine, but it's a book used by liberals and apparently by conservatives now to destroy their opponents, and we're going to delve into how this happens. Let's take a look at the interview here. This is so anti what Whitlock stands for. He usually doesn't have people on like this. He's more of a sports guy. And if I ever want to just, have 15 minutes to just turn my brain off, I'll put him on because he talks about sports. And to a certain extent, I like sports. I used to love sports, not anymore. But he talks about sports, and he's pretty good. And he was a pretty good writer. He was a syndicated writer, and he's pretty good. But now, ever since Nick Fuentes went after his buddy Tucker Carlson, and Carlson and Whitlock are good friends. They do all these conventions together. They do all these, Christ stuff, conservative stuff. Ever since Fuentes and Carlson had this bit of a tiff, Whitlock has been defending his buddy, his brother from another mother, which is kind of cute. But when you have a guy like this on, who's spewing all these things, the title of his article is Exposing the Top 50 Nick Fuentes Pedophile Scandals. I'm going to tell you, whether you like Nick Fuentes or not, to accuse him of pedophilia and scandals in pedophilia, you better have some goddamn hard evidence. Because that is as liable as it gets. That's as libelous as it gets. And I don't know if this guy has, who knows what this guy is, if he has any money. I don't even know if he has a career anymore. But for Whitlock to have him on here, I mean, you're taking a chance. You're taking a chance with your credibility. Now, you let the guy spew and everything, but Whitlock doesn't push back at all. I don't even think in this clip Whitlock says 10 words. But I don't want to poison your mind. I want to have you make up your own decisions. Let's take a look at this clip. Like I said, it's about 2 minutes and 25 seconds, and it's pretty explosive. And away we go.
Now, I first came across Nick Fuentes last year when he publicly defended me when I was like canceled in a situation where I was canceled, and he was the only one who stood up for me. So at the time, I was really appreciative of like him standing up for me with this huge audience, and that led me to start interacting with his followers, who are the Groypers. And almost like within a day or two, like I got really, really bad feeling being around the Groypers because like I was added to their group chats. I was like embedded in their community. And the first thing I saw was them being obsessed with pedophilia, with child porn, with rape, with beating women, with like talking about how much they hate women, about how much talking about they love toddlers and teenagers. It's a very toxic community, and that's why I wrote my article. I just couldn't believe how much like evil scandals that they were involved in every day. Almost, it's just them like ruining lives and like being obsessed with pedophilia. Like that's what their culture is, and it makes me sick to my stomach. And that's why I wrote my article. Like I was basically on the path to work for Fox News. Like I was a fellow at the Manhattan Institute. But then what happened when I was kind of parted ways with Con Inc., as you would say, it's I was working for like a Zionist think tank. I came out against Zionism. And that's when Nick defended me, and he like kind of I would say that the Groypers really, really tried to love bomb me and make me feel like I was like part of their community. And I thought, oh, okay, maybe like these are the people standing up for me. These are the people that seem to share my beliefs about like Israel and Zionism. We don't have to get into that, but that's like how I got entrenched with them in the first place. And so what I realized is that's really just a veneer. They don't really care about anything, I would say. What they care about is creating a cult of personality for Nick Fuentes.
So you see there, Fuentes didn't even say a word. I thought maybe he had something, I thought maybe he had said more than that, but he didn't say a word in that whole exchange. It wasn't even an exchange. It was just this guy bloviating. Now, I don't know this guy, Chris Brunette, other than what I just told you. So I don't know what his credibility is. But did you see the trigger words that were used? Rape, pedophilia, hate, women. All these crazy things. I mean, this is all stuff that if you heard about this stuff, if you heard that this guy was involved or was talking about doing stuff like this, wouldn't you have to report it to the police? Wouldn't you report it to somebody? Why would you come out with this stuff now? Unless this is a targeted attack. And frankly, this is what it is. Because this is typical rule for radicals. And the rules for radicals is very, very simple. You go after you pick your target and you go after it. Here, we'll look it up for you. There it is. There's old Saul. And the rules here that I think that apply mostly to Fuentes and this attack here are rules 10 and 12. Rule 10, if you can't see it, you probably can't. Rule 10 states, if, and I quote, if you push a negative hard enough, it will push through and become a positive. Violence from the other side can win the public to your side because the public sympathizes with the underdog. In quotes, unions used this tactic. Peaceful, albeit loud, demonstrations during the heyday of the unions in the early mid-20th century incurred management's wrath, often in the form of violence that eventually brought public sympathy to their side. Now, what this guy Brunette also said was that Fuentes has ties to guys who committed mass shootings. Guys mentioned him in his manifesto. I forgot the name of the two guys that he mentioned. I'll look that up later. But he was connecting Fuentes to all this whole motley crew of characters that it's just why is this coming out now? You would think this would have came out months ago. How come you didn't do an expose about him 10 months ago or a year ago when these guys allegedly took you in? That would have been a great story. You would have put him in jail. But he didn't. This only happened after the Owens-Carlson exchange. Let's look at Rule 12, and this is the big one here. Pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, and polarize it. In quotes, cut off the support network and isolate the target from sympathy. Go after people and not institutions. People hurt faster than institutions. In quote, this is cruel and very effective. Direct, personalized criticism and radical works. Well, there you have it. Isn't this the same thing? Isn't Whitlock, isn't The Blaze, isn't the mainstream media doing the same thing? When you go after somebody, you go after them brutally. So what do you accuse them of? Pedophilia, hate, hating women, talking about children, being connected to mass murderers. That's the playbook right there. Jason Whitlock just went radical. Jason Whitlock just channeled Saul Alinsky. And you saw it right there. And what Whitlock thinks he's going to get out of this, I don't know. Is he looking for clicks? Is he looking for? I don't know. He's probably just going to get the wrath of Fuentes probably later tonight. He'll be on probably at 2 in the morning my time. I'll be asleep by then, but I'll try to catch Nick tomorrow. But certainly, we have to figure, how does Fuentes respond? Because I can't see him letting this go. He has to respond. He has to fight back, and I think he will. And he'll probably be ferocious on it. And listen, Whitlock, he's not one to shy away from his past. He said he lived a bit of a randy past. He was a college football player, like a Division I player. He played for Ball State, and he threw that away. He threw that away by being a numbskull. And he became a writer, and he went to strip clubs and he chased women and all this other good stuff. And then he found Jesus, and now he's beyond reproach. But, when you party like that when you're a kid, I don't know when he stopped partying, but, Fuentes is one of these guys that, once he gets his shovel out, he digs on you. He finds a lot of shit, a lot of embarrassing shit. And again, we need to look at who Jason Whitlock works for. He works for The Blaze. That's Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck may say he's a Mormon, but he is not. If he's a Mormon, I'm a Mau fighter pilot, because he is in such support of Israel. It's sickening. I mean, he's got stretch marks around his mouth the way he cucks for those guys. This is a very strategic, very calculated attack by people like Jason Whitlock, like Tucker Carlson. Now, Tucker Carlson, I haven't heard from him. It seems like he's distanced himself from this. But like Candace Owens, like Charlie Kirk, like that other numbskull Tim Pool, like Ben Shapiro, these are people who are so afraid right now that they're going to lose control over the narrative. and they're going to be exposed for what they really are, that they're pulling out all the liberal Democrat, dare I say, Yui tricks. And the biggest trick of them all is accusing somebody of being a homosexual or a pedophile or a hate monger or friends with the mass shooter. Or, I mean, that's how they try to destroy your credibility. It worked 25, 30, 40, 50 years ago. It doesn't really work today. It doesn't really work today. Unless you have photographs. People want to see pictures. People want to see laptops. And if this guy Fuentes was involved in any type of kiddie porn, like in the, if you have to watch the whole interview, it's about 45 minutes. He accuses him of kiddie porn and all this other stuff. You would think that Nick Fuentes today is probably clocked by the FBI as if he was a mafia boss. He's got to be paranoid as fuck. He probably doesn't open up emails unless he knows they're from people that he knows, unless he trusts somebody really well. He probably doesn't open up text messages, because if there's a picture of a naked kid on there, the FBI is going to be behind his door in 5 minutes. And they'll expose him on air. They'll expose him throughout social media. They'll spread it all over the world, and he'll be finished. And his whole movement will be finished. So he's probably very, very paranoid and very extremely careful of who he talks to. Now, this guy Burnett, again, he sounded very nervous. His body language was awful. He looked like he was going to cry during this interview at some point, which goes to show that he might have been forced to do this. He might be compromised himself. I've been reading on social media that there's a lot of talk about his sexuality. I mean, what the fuck, man? I mean, are we the only guys in the world that just like boobs and hips? And I mean, what happened to guys? What happened to this younger generation? Everybody's a closet fruitcake, or are they? Or is that the weapon of choice now? Because I thought it was cool to be gay. You know, the whole Alphabet City trans thing. They make it seem like everybody's gay, but we just don't know it. We're the fools. No, we're not. Trust me. They're mentally ill. They belong in hospitals. But it just seems like now the conservative right has now turned an ugly page. They've turned this into something much more than just the battle of ideas. Now it's a smear campaign. Now it's a seek and destroy campaign. It's about trying to besmirch this guy's reputation, his name, his family name, with the most ugly accusations that you can find. And there's nothing uglier than rape and pedophilia and diving into kiddie porn. There's nothing uglier than that. So it will be interesting to see how Fuentes responds. If he responds, I think he will. It'll be interesting to see how Whitlock follows up. Because if Fuentes responds, Whitlock can't just let this go, right? I mean, this is going to be the war between the Groiper and the token. And it should be interesting. I was going to put on a video today that I thought was absolutely hilarious about this Rhode Island Attorney General or Assistant Attorney General, her getting arrested. I'm going to do that tomorrow. I've just been swamped, and the stories, the great stories, just keep coming out. But this one was fantastic. I thought this interview was just cringy as fuck, and I just can't wait for Nick's response. I think he will respond, and we'll have a follow up to that if he does tomorrow. But we'll have to wait. We'll have to wait and see, because, of course, Nick does his show in the middle of the morning. But with that said, there's my 2 cents. Thank you again for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. Be careful out there, my friends. As you can see, you can help somebody, but a year is a big difference. Satan can get his claws in those people, and they will turn on you, and they will lie about you, and they will turn the rules radicals on you. Be careful. Be a man, have a backbone, because masculinity and common sense are worth standing up for. And remember, if it ends in an ism, it's a mental disorder. We'll see you later.